The 8th event of the 2nd season of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport takes place at Durban. It's a return visit to the venue that was voted the most successful venue of the 1st season of A1GP. And once again, we've got a tremendous crowd in glorious weather conditions, just like last year. It couldn't really be more ideal in terms of a setting. Just look at that picture, the sea rolling in from the Indian Ocean, backing right up almost to the pit garages there, John, and we're all set for more fun and games around this tight but a street circuit on which it is possible to overtake.
Yes, there are a couple of places that overtaking are possible, but of course, in any racetrack, it's about getting position, getting your momentum. Most likely we're going to see most of the action occurring down at the entry into turn 9. That's the corner at the end of the back straight. It's also possible into turn 1, but that's probably more due to an error of a driver coming out of the turn 13 onto pit straight to give you the run. So it's going to be very close. You've got to stay off the curbs where possible. In fact, an interesting story we got from Nico Hulkenberg about those curbs, and we'll come back to that a little bit once this race gets underway.
Yes, indeed. Let's look at how they're going to line up for this feature race then, based on their finishing positions from the sprint race earlier on today. And it's Germany that will start on pole position. They're looking for 6 wins in a row and their 8th win of the season. France are yet to win in this 2nd season of A1GP. New Zealand and Netherlands are on the 2nd row. Then it's Switzerland and Ireland on row number 3, with South Africa right behind, and Portugal starting 8th. They did that last year and finished 3rd. Great Britain and Indonesia on the 5th row. 6th row, Czech Republic and Italy. Canada and China are on the 7th row of the grid. Then it's India with that cobbled together car, if you like, running from 15th place. 16th Australia. Brazil and Pakistan next up, followed by Lebanon, with Alam Kuder, new driver for them this weekend. Same for Jonathan Somerton, making a debut for the United States. Mexico, Singapore and Malaysia bring up the rear of the field. They were all had problems or involved in issues in that sprint race, so they've got plenty of work to do here. So it is 23 nations that we're expecting to get underway, John, and make that run down to the first corner.
Yes, but going back to that little comment that was made by Nico Hulkenberg between the sprint race and the feature race, he said that during the tail end of the sprint race, he noticed that if he ran some of the painted curbs, it was getting so hot then, and that was, 2.5 hours ago, and it's even hotter now, although there is a bit of cloud beginning to develop over on the horizon. But he said the paint was melting on those curbs, and it was actually sticking to the sticky surface of the Cooper tires on his car. And in fact, when that happened, he was losing grip. So he's going to be very cautious about the amount of use of curb that he makes. He's the only driver that made that comment to us. It shows you just how aware he is of what's happening around him. And there'll be many other drivers who run the curbs and maybe not be aware that they've lost grip in the process. Yeah,
I was very impressed with the awareness he showed. He's got the mind of a much older driver in some ways. The way he thinks through what's going on, even when he's leading a race and trying to extend a lead. That was some pretty impressive, cool thinking from Nico Hulkenberg. Well, he'll be starting on pole position, but this man will be starting 2nd on the grid, Loic Duval for Team France. We are now looking forward to the last stages of the build-up here now to the feature race.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to say some very special words, Tokyo Sewali, seat holder for Team South Africa.
Gentlemen, for the pride of your nation, start your engines now.
So engines are fired up then, as we're in the countdown to the start of what should be a 50-lap race, but it'll be marginal to get the full 50 laps in, John, in 69 minutes plus a lap.
Indeed, there's a slight change in how the races are now run. While they are a lap, maximum number of laps, there is a slightly different time. It used to be 20 minutes or 70 minutes, now it's 19 minutes or 69 minutes. And that's to ensure that the last lap does fall within that time zone. We had a slight difference in Australia when we overran on the final lap. So 69 minutes or 50 laps, whichever comes the sooner.
We shall see what happens. They've got a pit stop to deal with as well between laps 8 and 20. And just a quick note on that, you're going to have to watch out for the Australian crew doing a double job in terms of pit stops, because they're helping Team Portugal.
Indeed, Portugal, they put together this effort so late in the day that they weren't able to get the number of personnel that would be required to do a pit stop on their own. So they came to an agreement with Team Australia that Australia would make their pit stops first, and then a couple of laps later, then Portugal would then make their pit stops, and all the pit stops for Australia and Portugal will be made in the Australia pit garage rather than having to move all the equipment up from Australia to Portugal. So an interesting situation, and I'm sure that Australia will be as keen to help Portugal, because it's in their interest to do a good job for their rivals as it is to do it for themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of pride at stake on those pit stops between all the teams, and Australia have been near the top of these numbers in terms of how long pit stops have been at recent races, and they want to maintain that not only with their own car but with the Portuguese car too. So all the cars, I think, have got away safely. No one has been left stranded on the grid, and now they make their way around this 2-mile street track. They're coming along the section now that leads to the fastest section, long straight here, building up to a speed under race conditions of nearly 160 miles an hour. It's this area where we saw real drama last year, John, when Jos Verstappen managed to snatch the lead on the last lap of the feature race.
Yes, and indeed, because you're braking into turn 9, most drivers will tend to take a particular line, then swing out wide, and Jos Verstappen, he created new lines into turn 9, lines that no one ever conceived possible. And the motor racing that we saw at this part of the racetrack was just, literally, I was speechless. I couldn't actually get the words out to describe what I wanted to say. It was just so much entertainment.
Dana Cooper, boss of Team South Africa, they're keeping a close eye on the monitor, waiting to see just how their man gets on. There he is, Adrian Zhao for South Africa. He's come back from the operations on his forearms, which hopefully will allow him to continue his racing career. It was really beginning to cause him a problem, a sort of a binding up of muscles when working hard behind the steering wheel. You've seen the scars, John. Now he's got to get back to full fitness.
Yes, they're the full length of his forearm and the inside of that arm, and it was to do with the sheath, the muscle in the forearm actually is encased in, and it was in effect binding on the muscle, and he was having in effect a lock of the muscle in his forearms, which is what you do not need if you want to be a racing driver.
Germany then leading them round. There's Willy Weber, there's a familiar face, manager of Michael Schumacher, but also manager and seat holder at Team Germany. Looking after Nico Hülkenberg. Is his boy wonder going to do it again in the second race of the day? It's a much longer distance race. The heat and the humidity will have a bearing. This is the final car that will take its position on the grid. Poor old Alex Young has been way out of luck this weekend. They couldn't get the setup right on the car in qualifying, and then he was involved in an accident into the first corner in the sprint race. So he has his work cut out. He'll be starting at the back. Singapore down towards the back as well. Virtually all the cars are in position. The red lights are on. We're all set to go racing here in Durban. The lights go out. Good start from Team Germany. And look at the Netherlands. The Netherlands trying to go into second place, going down the outside of Team France. France will try and protect into the hairpin. The battle for second place. Switzerland trying to go around the outside. Portugal's gone wide. There's been more contact
again. And how many cars were involved in this contact? It's about half of the rear of the field.
And South Africa is in the middle of that, John. South Africa is stuck against the tyre barrier.
Safety car has been deployed. We've got, I think, 6 cars currently. Malaysia, one of those cars. South Africa up against the tyre barrier. So there will be a yellow flag around the racetrack, but it is Germany leading, and we've got in second place, I think it's the Netherlands. Ireland also. We didn't see Ireland come down into turn 1, and that's the reason why Singapore stopped on the, just at the exit of the pit lane. We've got Italy down there and Ireland as well. So whatever happened in the standing start, there we see the South Africa car
and the Canadian.
Canadian car, I think it is.
It is. I think Indonesia also had problems through there, but Canada's stuck on the outside. They just got squeezed out. So Germany got a great start off the line. But as you suspected earlier, John, when we were talking about it, Great Britain's well up. Great Britain's had a magic start. Robbie Kerr 5th. But as you said earlier, France was on the dirty side of the track and they really didn't get off the line well.
No, you're sitting there on the dirty side of the track and you try to moderate the throttle and the clutch together to get some bite. But if there isn't any grip out there on the dirty side of the track, you're not going to get the traction. But that was a great start. We saw the Netherlands, who started, in fact, directly behind France. They did get that traction. They got the grip off the start and they put themselves down into second place. The big loser, of course, is New Zealand, who went from third place all the way back to 6th.
Well, it's certainly a huge amount of changings going on there. Germany ahead of the Dutch car. We're getting that South African car started once again. And it's the Indian car. Sorry, my mistake there. It's the Indian car, not the Canadian car that was also stuck down on that part.
It's not the Indian car. It's my car, because that's the car that I do the Friday run out in. So, Ryan Carthagena getting involved in that turn 1 situation, literally at the first corner.
Well, it was difficult to spot exactly what was going on there. The revised colour scheme of the spare car catching me out for Team India. But the crocodile of lead cars coming around now, but Christian Murchison is walking away from the Singapore car. It looks as his afternoon is over. Great shame. Germany, though, leading. Netherlands in second place. What a start for Jeroen Bleekemolen. France now in third, Switzerland fourth, Great Britain in an amazing fifth place, considering that they started way down the field. And Great Britain certainly one of those from ninth place, making up places. There's the rather wry look on Christian Murchison's face. New Zealand, the other loser, because they went down to sixth.
Well, a loser, I mean, here, the biggest loser as far as the public are concerned, their hero, Adrian Zog, in the Team South Africa entry, getting caught up in that midfield bunch going. I mean, we talked about this just before the start of the race, that Adrian Zog was right at the beginning of that group of cars that could be problematic into turn one, and, well, sadly, that prophecy came true.
China have also gained a lot of ground on their starting position. They've gone from 14th to 7th behind the safety car currently. They're still trying to sort out something with Italy, who started 12th.
Well, Ireland stalled. That's the part of the reason. Ireland stalled. We knew Richard Lyons has had a problem getting off the grid in many of the races, but he was in sixth place and that car didn't move.
Now, this was the run from Netherlands. This was a brilliant getaway by Jeroen Bleekemolen, and he was able to get ahead of France before they turned into the hairpin. But watch what was going behind.
Yes, get ahead, but there was everybody coming down the inside. You see South Africa hit. So that white and red car, whether that was Indonesia or not, hard to tell, clipped the back of somebody. Adrian Zog was on the outside for South Africa, and he then got taken out. Watch what happens on board with Malaysia. There's the Lebanon car to the left of Malaysia, and then
poor old Alex Young, he can't believe it. He got run into the back of the China car in the sprint race, and now he got stuck in that one as well behind the South African car. Singapore appears to be out. Simon Hill is with their driver, Christian Murchison.
Christian, a weekend to forget. What happened?
Basically, on the start of the race, made a really good start, got off the line quite well, and I was following USA car obviously quite closely, and further up the Italian car had stalled. Right at the last second, the USA car darted out of the way and revealed just a stationary car there, which I did my best to avoid, but missed it with the front wheel and just tagged his rear wheel with my rear wheel. So it was the lightest touch. It didn't even feel like I hit anything, but it's thrown the corner out. So that's the end of the race.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Well, that's bitterly disappointing for Christian Murchison, but well, that's the way it goes. And do we think that was the Ireland car?
Well,
John?
I think the Ireland car didn't move off the grid, and of course the Italy car was 3 cars behind Ireland, and the Singapore car, of course, was right at the back of the grid. So Christian Murchison head down flat out to turn one. Suddenly, once the Italy car moved or was not where it had been, suddenly there's the Ireland car. Now I wondered if it was the Singapore, did it tag Italy or did it tag Ireland? We're not sure. Ireland is back running again, but we think Italy may be out, and it probably was the Italy car that Singapore did clip.
Oh, that's bitterly disappointing for all those involved. We've got most cars back out again, but South Africa there, as you can see, has managed to get going and will join the back of the queue. And I think is still on the lead lap. That's the crucial thing in this kind of situation, is that you don't actually lose the entire lap to the leaders. You still might be in the hunt for a result if you can join the back of the crocodile behind the safety car, which is due in this lap, as you can see from the information at the bottom of the screen. So the lights are out now on safety car, and Team Germany it will be who has the job of pacing the restart. The Netherlands up into a brilliant second place. Well, the Dutch won this race last year, remember, in Durban. Can Jeroen Bleekemolen repeat the performance of Jos Verstappen?
We've got 48 laps to go, but the clock's been ticking because we've now just got 63 minutes of this race remaining.
Germany, Netherlands, France and Switzerland. Here goes Nico Hülkenberg, beginning to really pick up the pace as the safety car heads in the pits. Beautiful timing that from the German driver.
These two have left the field absolutely standing. They've been sitting back. I don't know what they've been doing. Knitting. What was France doing? They have a lot. France has let the Netherlands and Germany steal a massive. Look, you could have almost 5 seconds of an advantage, and it isn't even France in second place.
Oh, what's happened to France? They've disappeared. Switzerland reappears now ahead of Great Britain, New Zealand, and the French car has vanished. I can't see it in that lineup. Malaysia getting down the inside of Pakistan. USA going through Lebanon there. Team Ireland as you said, back into the fray. Team Czech Republic up the inside of Portugal.
Into turn 2, difficult place to do it. There's the reason France is in the pit, and they've got a problem with their car. The back of the car is about to be jacked up, and that has gone to the benefit of Switzerland, Great Britain, New Zealand. That's the tail of the top 5.
So France couldn't accelerate, they couldn't respond when the others went away, and that's of course fused a huge gap now between the top 2, Germany and Netherlands, and the rest of them. 3rd place Switzerland, 4th place Great Britain, 5th place New Zealand, then China up into 6th. Czech Republic now 7th, ahead of Portugal. I think there's a battle there further back. Team USA getting past Pakistan, followed by Ireland. They're right in there too, and Indonesia, who had a little bit of damage on that original start.
Whatever the problem was with France, it clearly held up the rest of the field, because Germany came through 6.7 seconds. Oh, and almost contact with the USA coming out of turn 9. 6.7 seconds ahead of Switzerland.
There's a race going on for 3rd place between Switzerland and Great Britain. Nothing to choose between them, but the top 2 did make that break, as you say, John. It's the German car in the lead, Netherlands in 2nd place, and then look back in the distance, it's Switzerland coming under pressure here from Team Great Britain. Great Britain's going to go down the inside. Robbie Kerr late on the brake, slithers, slides, turns in. Oh, that's a great move by Robbie Kerr. Once again, he shows he can race hard in A1GP.
And that was a perfectly executed overtake, and this France, it is all over. For Luc Duval, the race has ended. We don't know whether the problem was mechanical, electrical, or whatever. But again, trouble in turn 1 with Pakistan, Lebanon, and I can't believe it, South Africa.
South Africa again involved at the hairpin. It's gone wrong for Saug again. There's damage under the Lebanese guy. He's trying to back off his own front wing.
You can see his front wing, and there's wing in the middle of the racetrack. South Africa, within the space of 3 laps, have been in trouble twice in turn 1. Here's the reason why, coming down in contact. Well, that was just Anando Mikela. Indonesia smashes into the side of South Africa, who were in turn trying to pass Pakistan, and that was just a suicide dive down the inside from Anando Mikela, and rides right over the right rear wheel of South Africa. And I mean, it's gone from bad to worse to even worse than worse.
Yeah, you have to say Anando Mikela was just out of control there, and he's just wiped out South Africa. Look at the damage to the rear engine cover, the side pod on that car.
And I think the rear suspension is damaged as well, because there's Anando Mikela. He's now crashed out. As a consequence of that, he may well have gone off on his own water. You can see the steam coming out of the radiator on the left-hand side. No doubt when he had an impact with South Africa, that's what's happened. He's split the radiator, the water's pouring out everywhere, and his race is over.
Yellow flag only at 1 corner, so Pakistan gets back past South Africa, having also got going once again, but surely this ends the day for Team South Africa, and Dana Cooper can't quite believe her eyes, I don't think. What has gone wrong for the host nation here today? There was nothing they could have done about that. Anando Mikela came out of nowhere. Well, the race is still on. We've got a yellow flag at turn 4. New Zealand we're riding with now, currently riding in 5th place behind Switzerland. Remember, Great Britain managed to move up into 3rd position. There is the GBR car. Now Switzerland's coming under increasing pressure from the Black Beauty from Team New Zealand, and he could be the next one to make a move on Switzerland.
Watch for power boost. Nothing from Britain, nothing from Switzerland or New Zealand as they come down into turn 9. The quicker of these 2 cars is the New Zealand car, but it's not a lot of difference, and therefore it's going to make it hard. It may well be that we see an early pit stop from either Switzerland or New Zealand. Once we get to lap 8, there we see the South Africa car bouncing its way back, trying to get out of the way, out of this battle. That's maybe works slightly to the advantage of Matt Halliday as he comes out of turn 12. Watch for a move, maybe down the inside into 13. It's been difficult.
It is difficult, there's not much space. He's got to get this corner here right. If he can come out of this corner, this is where Robbie Kerr was so effective last time around. Switzerland gets to the middle of the road. Is Matt Halliday for Team New Zealand going to go for the move? He's a long, long way back. He's surely not close enough, and he doesn't go for it.
He thought about it. He was almost at the point and thinking, will I release the brake pedal and just roll it into the corner? Trouble for Czech Republic in turn 1 on the exit of the corner. Bodywork up in the air, kicked up by Brazil, or is it Australia?
And Portugal as well running over it. So there was something going on there between the Czech Republic and Portugal. The Czech had been running in 7th place. Portugal had been in 8th. But I think it's over for South Africa. The car's being pushed back into the garage.
But you can see the right rear, and there we see Thomas Inge again just floors the throttle. Whether he's got a damage to that rear of the car, we don't really know. I thought maybe that left rear had suffered some damage. It appears to be reasonably square on the road. But here's the battle still for 3rd place, getting closer down into turn 9.
Switzerland holding on to what is actually 4th place at the moment, from New Zealand in 5th. And New Zealand still hounding every move that Neil Yarni makes. Behind them is Team China. China in the battle too. Of course, we lost Czech Republic that time around. That brings Portugal up to 7th place. But what has happened to Team France? Lee is with their driver, Loic Duval.
Although it's terrible luck, I know you'd still like to be out there. What's the problem with the car?
When I took the throttle for the restart, I think we broke the drive shaft, and then there is nothing to do. Only to come back to the pit and stop the car.
Okay, bad luck.
Well, that is unbelievable. A broken throttle cable on the restart. That's what caused that huge gap that we couldn't understand why France hadn't kept up with Germany and Netherlands, but there's a very clear explanation. If you haven't got any throttle, you ain't going to do much.
And of course all that occurred as they would have been coming out of turn 10, because that was the point on the lap where the track also goes much narrower, that Nico Hülkenberg from Germany would have been on it. So everybody behind Team France would have been suddenly tripping over themselves to wonder, A, what had happened to France, and then to find a way past.
China there following these two, Switzerland and New Zealand, who are battling over fourth place. It still looks as though New Zealand's faster, but can it get past Switzerland? Neil Yarni's a canny racer. He's not going to make it easy. Here's a chance.
Yeah, here's a chance. He's closer to the rear of the Swiss car than at any point. Can he get down the inside? No, he's decided again that Switzerland blocked off that fourth place. Very cleverly, Neil Yarni using all his experience, all his intelligence to keep the quicker New Zealand car behind Switzerland.
Of course, New Zealand will know that France is out of the picture. It's a useful margin that they will be able to build now over France in second place for the point standings, because New Zealand currently in second, but only a little ahead of France. With France failing to finish this one, it's a good opportunity for New Zealand, but they'd love to be able to get past Switzerland and then perhaps go chasing after Great Britain in third place.
There's trouble coming up for Robbie Kerr and Team GBR in third place. He's now beginning to lap some of the cars. He's got Pakistan just ahead of him, and this is the battle for fourth place. That will not for Great Britain anyway, but for others. New Zealand preparing. Looks like the Netherlands are also preparing for this pit stop, so we are on lap 9, and this is going to be the earliest opportunity for teams to be able to make that pit stop.
Yeah, the pit lane is open at the end of this lap, so we'll see who decides to come in early. We could see quite a lot of cars, I think, heading in towards the pit lane. Fastest lap has gone to Great Britain, 1:19.899. Robbie Kerr, they've changed that car. They must have done, because he was struggling in the sprint race, but Robbie Kerr is flying now, and he's managed to get past Pakistan, so that's good news from his point of view. Let's get some more news from Lee Mackenzie.
Adrian, very disappointed. What happened out there?
Yeah, first of all, I think with the practice start I've done, I broke the clutch or was burned completely, because I hardly got away from my grip position at the start. I pulled away with full revs, but the clutch was, it almost died off, so the clutch was broken there already. Then coming to the first corner, there were cars running from the side. I just had to avoid them crashing into me. And there was a wing that came flying and hit my car underneath the front wing, left my front.
Right, we've got the leaders in the pits. We've got the leaders into the pit lane, and it's Germany and the Netherlands. Germany gets going again and is staying ahead of the Netherlands.
Watch another car coming down. Oh, contact! I saw that Australia car come down as the Netherlands pulled out. That's damaged the left rear of Australia, but hasn't, more importantly, damaged the car of the Netherlands. Now that should be pit management from the pit leader, the man who's controlling the exit of the Netherlands car. He should have seen Australia come down. He should have said, wait, this car's too close, and that may take the Netherlands. It's certainly taken Australia out of the race.
Great stop by Great Britain, the fastest stop by Great Britain of those top three cars, so it's allowed Robbie Kerr to close up. Malaysia's been in, so have Team Ireland as well. Those guys battling just outside the top 10 at the moment, and they're battling for position. Richard Lyons has a think about it.
No, too far back. And Richard Lyons and Ireland have got they had the opportunity. They lost it at the start of the race, but circumstances may bring it back. They've got to finish in the top 10. They've got to get more points. Watch now, there was no control of the Dutch car going out. The Australia car legitimately coming down the outside lane, but of course the British car was there as well. Somebody should have controlled that Netherlands entry as it left the pits.
That was scary, because if they were right next to the mechanics on the British car, and that really was quite frightening.
This may come under investigation with the stewards at a later date, because there was a lack of control from the Netherlands team in the release of their car.
China now leads the race because they've not yet made a pit stop. Now, China made a pretty clever strategy, John, last time out in Australia, and they're maybe taking a gamble here again. Portugal right with them. Portugal running in second place. Alvaro Parent in his first comeback race in A1GP. Now Mexico third, Brazil fourth, USA fifth, India sixth. All of these nations have not yet stopped. They're all taking a bit of a gamble.
It is a gambler's race, very much so. On a street racetrack, we saw that China used that gamble in Eastern Creek 3 weeks ago to their full advantage. They got that third place, and in fact, I think they got the fastest race lap as well, but it was still a very cool judgment from China. Are they going to do the same thing today or not? The trouble on a street track is that you cannot predict what may occur. There's always the occasion where you may have a safety car intervention, and all that clever strategy may either lose you or make you a position.
Yeah, what they don't want is a safety...
Oh, he almost run. He's got bodywork hanging off the back of the car as well.
Yep.
Something either has hit the back of his car, or there's something hanging down. You can see on the right-hand side of the rear. I don't know whether that is another car's bodywork or is it part of the Team China bodywork as a result of contact.
This is the battle for the lead, remember. These two cars have not stopped. They are racing for the lead of this race. It's China versus Team Portugal. And China, well, they had that fantastic podium finish last time out. We've
Drive-through penalty.
Yeah, for Team Netherlands. Confirmation, John, as you expected, that Team Netherlands has been penalised for that last pit stop, and that's going to hurt. And look at Portugal going for the lead side by side with China into the hairpin.
China defended on the inside, forcing Portugal to go the long way around. Portugal over around the corner. They've lost a little bit of ground, but they didn't lose position.
Mexico in third place, are right behind them as well, only separated by another second or so. USA in fourth, Germany up to fifth place. So Germany the first of the cars that has stopped. The Netherlands currently second of the cars that have stopped.
And the Netherlands now has had the fastest race lap in spite of having to make a drive-through penalty. That will be coming up probably at the end of this lap.
Well, it's all drama here, but at the moment, Team China, there you are, protecting their lead. The two cars behind, running second and third, it's Team Portugal, and then behind them, Team Mexico, similarly coloured cars. And Mexico, of course, desperate for a good result. They had a gearbox problem in the first race. They've got their home race coming up in a month. It's the next round of the championship. They'd love to get something out of this, but this different strategy, will it play out for them? It's going to be hard to tell.
Well, it looks like the Team China engineers are waiting for the Team China car to come in. It may be at the end of this lap. We wait to see as they come out of turn 12. No, yes, he does, and he's followed in by the following two other cars. Portugal and Mexico take that opportunity. This is on lap 12. We've got 39 to go, or 50 minutes of this race remaining.
So it's Mexico in at the same time as China and Portugal. USA, we're waiting to come in. I think they have not come in. So USA is our new race leader. But, of course, for those that have already stopped, Germany is once again in good shape here. The stop takes place. Which of these nations, they were so close coming in, it's all going to be about how rapid the pit stop is.
It's a problem on the left front for China. We've got Portugal moving ahead of...
Netherlands doing their drive-through.
Netherlands, yes, indeed. So the Portuguese are the ones that China have lost out. A big problem now. I think he might have stalled it at the same time. So terrible stop for China, 43, 44. By the time they get to the end of the pit lane, as Arden tries to make a move down the outside, can't get it done. And that was the bell. Cuts back on the inside. Careful not to catch the rear of that Mexico car. Up to turn 2, side by side. Let's have a look and see, can both cars get through turn 2? We can't see.
Well, it's all frantic action, isn't it? USA now lead this race. The youngster Jonathan Somerton in his debut event for Team USA. He's raced in the Formula 3 Euro Series, but he now leads the race because he's not made his pit stop yet. Behind him, though, now Germany is in second position. There is Germany, the lead car to have made a pit stop, and Germany has a very big advantage over Great Britain running in third place. New Zealand is now into fourth, so New Zealand has effectively got past Switzerland thanks to those pit stops. And then we've got Portugal having made that stop. They will have moved down. It'll be interesting to see how the bottom end of the top 10 is resolved once they all come back past the pits. USA has been into the pits. That means Germany retakes the lead.
Indeed, and they're going to have a very comfortable position over Team GBR in second place. GBR, I don't know the gap until we see them come through, will be under pressure, no doubt. Well, there is GBR coming through. We've got a car between them and New Zealand. New Zealand wants to get down the inside, pulls out. It's Portugal. Can he do it? Oh, Portugal runs wide.
Great Britain and Lebanon side by side there as Robbie Kerr got out of shape on the brakes. I don't know what Lebanon quite doing. They're not battling for position there at the moment. And they're still going to get in the way of New Zealand, who are also coming through.
And New Zealand is now trapped behind the Lebanon car going into this complex. So he has to be patient. He's got to wait until he gets down at the end of the straight. Hopefully he will, Lebanon that is, will be given a blue flag, which means he's got to give way to the car that is the leading car of those two, i.e. New Zealand is ahead on the road. New Zealand running in third place, Lebanon all the way down in 15th.
And they've got Pakistan to lap as well as they get down the straight, so this is all going to get a bit tricky. It's Pakistan car about to be lapped by Team GBR. New Zealand gets past Lebanon, so now that puts New Zealand right on the tail virtually of Team GBR, who has to get past Pakistan as effectively as possible not to lose more time.
Well, Robbie Kerr, we know, is courageous and very clear-minded when he goes about his overtaking. and he's going to have to find a pace to get past Hunter-Reay and Team Pakistan. He's not going to try doing it around this long left-hand corner. He might try to sneak down the inside going into turn 13, but in fact both cars have done it because Hunter-Reay for Pakistan's gone into the pit lane.
But it's still close between GBR and New Zealand out of the final corner, past the pits, right up to the pit wall as they exit that corner, and it's the run down to the hairpin, the first corner, and New Zealand might have a look down the inside here. Robbie Kerr braking as late as he can, and behind Lebanon getting out of the way as Switzerland comes back through.
With Portugal running behind Switzerland, so these cars, second, third, fourth and fifth, are all running within about a second and a half of each other.
I tell you what, Portugal did a great job by staying out there. Portugal put in a quick pit stop. They are now running in fifth place. That's
and
fantastic.
Remember, that Portuguese pit stop was done, thank you very much, to Team Australia.
That's right, yeah, Team Australia did the Portuguese pit stop, and Portugal now running fifth. And interestingly, despite the drive-through penalty, the Netherlands is still in sixth place. That's pretty impressive
and
too.
What's impressive is that they're just 2 seconds behind Portugal, and because this group of 4 cars is fundamentally all running at the same pace being dictated by Team GBR, we know that the Netherlands has had a very quick lap. There is pressure from the New Zealand on Team GBR.
It's a bit of a slide from Great Britain there through turn 9, but he kept it.
Team Netherlands under investigation for a second time this afternoon.
Oh dear, there may be more problems for the Dutch then, as we see that message come up on our screens. But look at Great Britain, he's definitely struggling now a bit more. Before the pit stop, he seemed to have a very quick car, but after the pit stop, he's fighting it more.
But he's had a car all weekend that's not really been up to the standard that we've expected from GBR. The back of the car starts to move around, he then gets lots of oversteer, and he's having to really just control himself. Watch what New Zealand's going to do. They can go one way down the outside or try to cut back around the inside. It all depends how Robbie Kerr comes out of turn 1. Can Halliday get the run? No, he didn't. Kerr kept the line, kept the traction, got the advantage.
In the background, Portugal managed to nip past Lebanon. Lebanon's running in 14th place at the moment with their new driver Alam Kodair, so he's being lapped by these front runners, but so far so good. He's staying out of trouble, even though he got a bit involved with Team GBR a lap or so ago. It's Germany leading. This is the battle for second between Great Britain and New Zealand. 4th place for Switzerland, also in that hunt. 5th place for Portugal.
Ireland and Malaysia, that's a pass for position. Ireland is now up into 9th place, in fact up into 8th place, because that occurred as they went on to the 16th lap.
So behind Portugal, the Netherlands in 6th, Mexico in 7th, then it's Ireland in 8th as we saw, Malaysia in 9th, and USA in 10th place. So the United States, despite running longer than anyone else to that first stop, running in 10th position.
You could see the problem that Robbie Kerr has as he came out of turn 9. He gets on the throttle, the back end just momentarily steps out. He's having to wait all the time before he can get the power on. He's basically having to wait until he's got the car facing straight from the corner. He can't get on the power at the apex where he would like to.
So it's tight for second place currently. The lead for Team Germany is very, very healthy. It's all going on here for second, but remember, a safety car would close it all up. The gap is 16 seconds first to second, but it's nothing. Second to third as again Halliday has a think about trying to find a way past Switzerland, slithering around behind him, and Portugal closed up.
Yes, and Halliday, and for New Zealand's got to be careful. He's taking that long line to get a quicker run out of turn 1. He's opening up the door to the Swiss or Portuguese entries to try and dive down and take that third position away.
Oh, this is great stuff. This is Durban street racing. This is like last year, totally unpredictable, hard racing, easy to make a mistake, easy to get blocked off by another car, but you've got to fight for it. Robbie Kerr fighting for second place. Matt Halliday, a real street fighter himself, throwing everything he can at him, but Malaysia's out of the end of a desperate weekend for Team Malaysia.
Well, catch your breath and have another go when you come down into turn 9. So we watch Robbie Kerr again, able to control the speed down the straight, and again watch the back of the car. Even as he gets the throttle on at the exit of the corner, the back is still unstable.
The demise of Malaysia has put up USA into 9th place and Brazil now into 10th position. Bruno Junqueira on his debut for Team Brazil is up into 10th place. China in 11th, India in 12th, Malaysia dropping down the order, and that should move Lebanon up into 13th position as well.
And Ireland now in 8th place. They're just 2 seconds behind Mexico. Remember, Ireland, we think that car stalled on the grid, which in part may have been the reason that we saw Singapore and Italy get taken out. Team Netherlands still under investigation. We haven't heard the reason for that. They've been having a drive-through once. Whether there's another infringement, we wait to find out.
So it's Great Britain holding off the attentions of Team New Zealand at the moment. Hinchcliffe in the pits for Team Canada. So Canada out of the race as well. I think he was a very early victim of all of the problems at the start of the race. In fact, so Hinchcliffe hasn't had much of a weekend to write home about. He'll have to hope for better things in Mexico next time. And talking of Mexico, he's not far behind this little group is Salvador Duran for Team Mexico. He's running in a 7th place, but he will have to watch his mirrors a touch because Team Ireland is not far behind with Richard Lyons.
Well, the gap has in fact opened up from just under 2 seconds to
Look
just
how
over 2
close
seconds.
he was there.
Oh yes, and again look at the back of that Team GBR car. But Mexico has pulled out another half a second just to give themselves a comfortable 2.5 second advantage over Ireland for 7th place.
This is a great battle between two hard racers. I'm enjoying this one, and I think this could go on for a little while, but if Kerr makes the slightest mistake, then Halliday's going to be right there and take the New Zealand car up into 2nd place. And if you get a safety car, well, they'd all be closed back up together, and Germany's huge lead would of course be negated absolutely straight away. We've got a yellow flag at turn 4. Well, you never know, that might lead to a safety
GBR
car.
were using power boost to defend that 2nd place, so very keen indeed. Now we see the field, the Netherlands having had that drive-through penalty back up to the tail of Portugal.
Now we've got some news from pit lane. Simon Hill, what can you tell us, Simon?
Well, Team GBR sent Robbie Kerr out at the start of the race from the grid on brand new tyres, which perhaps would explain why he was so quick at the beginning and got fastest lap at that stage of the race. He's now on old tyres as opposed to Team New Zealand, along with Team Ireland, Team Czech, and a couple of other teams that put new tyres on at the stops. There was almost a collision between Team GBR and Team Ireland as Robbie was sent from the pit lane just as Richard Lyons came in. And in fact, I spoke to the team, and apparently they did just very, very briefly touch, so it was pretty damn exciting down there.
Oh, well, I hope you kept out of the way, Simon. It looks exciting enough from what we saw as well with that other incident with the Netherlands and Australia, so it's all been tight down in pit lane here today. But up front, no doubt about Team Germany who leads. The battle for second still going on between Great Britain and New Zealand, with Switzerland, Portugal, the Netherlands, Mexico, and perhaps even Ireland in the hunt here.
Well, this so far looks like a gift race for Germany and Nico Hülkenberg. But remember, there is traffic all around the racetrack here. We're coming up to lap Pakistan. We have to remember street tracks are unpredictable. Watch New Zealand going down the long side. Can he get alongside Robbie Kerr? As we got that car coming out on the left-hand side of track from the pit, again Kerr, who is so good on the brakes at any racetrack anywhere in the world, able to control 2nd place.
Yeah, so far he can do so. He is a pretty effective defensive driver, Kerr. We've seen it on a number of occasions, even when he's had damage to the car, that he can be mighty difficult to pass. But Matt Halliday's, I think, totally up for the battle here. The trouble is, as you go further and further into the race, they'll all start sliding around.
I think the problem is you go further and further race is that Matt Halliday has not been in an A1GP car since Beijing, and he sort of hinted that over the duration of this longer feature race that he may find it fatiguing. He's certainly got the quicker of the two cars, but as long as Kerr can keep putting his car in the part of racetrack that New Zealand wants, he will be able to retain it. It will be maybe a mistake from GBR that allows New Zealand to get through. And also remember that fatigue and just general lack of race fitness in a single-seater car may work against New Zealand at the end of the day.
Meanwhile, the orange car of Team Netherlands has caught to the back of Portugal. There's India, Team India running in 12th place. He let them through a moment ago. He's running in a solid 12th place, Narain Karthikeyan, in that car that is the spare car that John, you drive on the Friday mornings. It seems to be going okay, although he hasn't had a particularly lucky run. He was caught up in that first corner incident. Still, Great Britain stays in 2nd with New Zealand in 3rd.
I think that New Zealand are having a bit of a breather because there's only so much you can do. You can push so hard to try and find a way past another car. As we look and see Ireland, in fact, Japan's dropping back. Now Ireland's lost a place, dropped back to 9th place from the USA. Yeah, Team USA have gained a position on that last lap. So Jonathan Somerton has moved Team USA up into 8th position. You're looking at the Czech car coming through. He's well down in 16th. Been involved in various incidents, has Thomas Enger. These guys have spaced themselves out a little bit, except that Netherlands has caught up. There's India a lap down on those other drivers ahead of him. He's running in 12th position, as I say. China running in 11th. They had that horrible pit stop, yet they were going very well. And in fact, China has the fastest lap of the race. So Ho Pin Tung, he's been out of luck, but he's shown pace throughout the weekend. Well, in a long race like that, 1 minute 19.095 is a pretty quick lap. But of course, teams had the option. They held back new tyres from qualifying, and if that's a set of new tyres on the China car, they probably tried to play out the same kind of strategy that they use in Australia to great effect. And China right now running down in 11th place, just one place outside a point scoring finish. That's right, and still this battle continues. There's the Netherlands car running in 6th place currently. All getting a bit busy now with cars to lap, and this is the Czech car moving out of the way of the battle for 2nd place. Thomas Enger being very kind to the leaders as they come through. Well, he's 6 laps down, in fact, as it happens, so he's got nothing to gain. And remember, that car looked like it had damage after contact down in turn 1. some laps to go.
India had a bit of a slide on the brakes coming down into the hairpin there. I think Karthikeyan surprised himself by braking a little too late, but he sorted it all out and got it through the corner. He's running down in 12th place, remember, ahead of Team Lebanon. Lebanon's still doing a good job. New driver Alam Kodair running in 13th position. Remember, Lebanon's never scored any points in A1GP. If three cars had a problem here this afternoon, and that's not beyond the realms of possibility, Lebanon could get into the points.
And isn't it sod's law that once again Robbie Kerr and Matt Halliday are coming up to lap the Team Pakistan car? Of course, Pakistan went into the pits a few moments ago to have that pit stop wheel change. Robbie Kerr pulls his car out to the right to put it into the mirror of the Pakistan car to make sure that Nur Ali is aware. Nur Ali is aware, but suddenly he finds himself trapped. What do we do? Lift off or keep flat out? Robbie Kerr fights, go the long way around the outside. Matt Halliday will be courageous if he manages to do it without any contact with the Pakistan car, and three cars get past.
And Nur Ali's in for a drive-through penalty at the same time, so thankfully they all get past cleanly. It doesn't affect the outcome of this battle for second place. It might have given Matt Halliday a hint that he may be able to take advantage, but as it's worked out, no real gain for either nation there. Great Britain still holding off New Zealand, with right behind them Switzerland, then it's Portugal, then the Netherlands.
So those group of 5 cars, Great Britain down to Netherlands, they're actually covered by a total time of about 2 seconds.
Down into the chicane here, on riding on board with Robbie Kerr. Slight lock up on that right front. His mirrors being filled by the Black Beauty of Team New Zealand, trying not to use too much curb here. That's where we've seen a lot of damage done to the front wings.
Indeed, a lot less aggressive use of curb in that turn 7 area of the racetrack. You saw drivers damaging the cars severely or less severely, depending on how viciously they attack that curb. And once again, the gap is actually opened up marginally between New Zealand and Team GBR, and I suspect, as I mentioned earlier, that Matt Halliday is just having a little momentary breather. If you look at Thomas Enger, the Czech Republic, and this may well be it all over for the Czech Republic. The car is in the garage, the engine cover is coming off, and clearly there's a problem beyond that we saw. It may simply be a damage to the suspension. The Kerr swings the car, back end sliding around, and not a comfortable place to the back end of the car, acting like a pendulum.
No, but he doesn't ever seem to be intimidated by the back end of the car sliding around, does he? Keeps his foot hard on the throttle through a corner where they're doing 135 miles an hour. Now one down to one of the slowest corners, take it in first gear, tuck it round the hairpin, accelerate cleanly out. No traction control on these cars, remember. It's all down to the sensitivity of the right foot to limit the amount of wheel spin, the amount of oversteer they might be getting out of these tighter corners. And still Great Britain holding on to second. Remember, he started down in 9th place, did Great Britain. They stayed out of trouble on that opening lap. New Zealand had a rather poor getaway and paid the price, and now have been tucked in behind Great Britain for lap after lap.
And again, watching Kerr as he came out of some of those slower corners up into turn 7, the back of the car still hasn't settled down. Even as the fuel load on the car begins to lighten off the car, the balance of the race car will change. And I think once again New Zealand sensed the chance to get past, but not close enough. Kerr again able to put the Team GBR car right in the part of the racetrack. Again, defends from the run down into turn 10. Not possible to pass there. It would be very brave if anybody tried it, and I think very foolhardy too.
Yeah, New Zealand are aware that they still want to score regular points. They're running second in A1GP to Germany, of course. Big gap between Germany and New Zealand, but they're not that far ahead of France, so they will need the points. Will he take the gamble later in the race? We'll have to wait and see. Again, Halliday's very close, tucked in behind the rear wing.
He's on power boost as well. Can he get down the inside? Kerr goes one way, back the other. Kerr slides under braking. Watch for the cutback, but there's too much. And it's Switzerland that may be the beneficiary of that little overtaking. That's it.
Matt Halliday glances in his mirror. He's so nearly lost his 3rd place there. Going on the attack. Both got into trouble on the brakes. And Neil Yarni for Switzerland was almost able to take advantage.
And remember, you're allowed to make one blocking manoeuvre. You're not allowed to switch back again. So once Robbie Kerr had committed to go from the left to the right-hand side of the track, he had to stay there. He wouldn't be able to cut back and try to block. Well, he looked at them all over the place. That was the part of the racetrack and my tracks facts that I pointed out was bumpy. So also it's the dirtier part of the racetrack. It's not used normally by drivers. There's the other view. Look at the shape of Robbie Kerr's car under braking. We know that Robbie likes a loose car. Well, how loose does he like it?
Effectively, they both were off the normal racing line there, and they both lost grip. And there's a wry smile for Max Welty of Team Switzerland. He could have seen an opportunity there to gain 1, maybe even 2 places, but at the end of the day, it wasn't to be. And Great Britain hold on to second place. just about, with New Zealand in third. Nervous moments for Chris Gawn, race engineer there for Team New Zealand. Can they think of a way of getting Matt Halliday up behind the Great Britain car again and then finding a way past? It's one thing to get behind him, but as he's found out, it's quite difficult to actually get alongside. Switzerland, Portugal and the Netherlands continue to follow.
Again, Great Britain has pulled a little bit of a gap, which is as much as about New Zealand just saying, well, I made a big attempt, I had a good shot down the inside, it was well defended, I couldn't do anything about it, give myself a chance, and then go forward once again.
We're at half distance here in Durban on the street track. Germany leads the race by some 19 seconds at the moment over Great Britain, New Zealand and Switzerland. Let's get more news in the pit lane from Simon.
Thomas, very disappointing. What's the situation?
Well, we got some gearbox issues. We don't know what's happened exactly, but that's our second gearbox problem after last race in Australia. It's a shame because we were running pretty good. I had a good start and the car suddenly felt really good, much better than in the sprint race or yesterday. So I was hoping for a good result, but unfortunately we ran out of problems, we ran out in the problems, and well, we have to prepare better for next time.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thomas Enger there explaining the Czech Republic's problems. There's a gearbox maladies this time. It's a shame he's out of the race. He joins a list of retirements. We've lost France, who had a broken throttle cable. Indonesia, who got involved in an accident with South Africa. Indonesia effectively took South Africa, the host nation, out of this race. Australia are out as well. Czech Republic, the latest to retire. It means we've got 15 cars still running. Let's quickly run through the order. It's Germany, Great Britain, New Zealand, Switzerland, Portugal, the Netherlands, Mexico, the United States, Ireland and Brazil, top 10. Then China, India, Lebanon, Malaysia, and the final runner, Pakistan in 15th.
So the field, this is the battle continuing for second place. Again, a little bit of a quieter moment, that intense moment a few laps ago when we saw New Zealand almost get alongside Team GBR into turn one. Has gone away, and we're just going to let GBR do their laps. They're running around 1 minute 20, the mid 1 minute 20s. New Zealand capable of lapping half a second a lap quicker, but that half a second is only there when there is a gap. He can drop back and then pull back up to the back of the Team GBR car, but that seems to be about as far as he's able to take it.
That's right, and meanwhile up ahead of them, Team Germany still knocking away the laps. The last time around was a 1:19.9. This last lap actually was 1:20.5. Team Lebanon out. So what's happened to Team Lebanon? He'd been running a nice solid sort of 13th position, and now he's out of the race.
Well, he did get involved in some of those incidents down at turn one, and ultimately maybe that's what paid the price. Back to this battle for second place. The gap as they come across the line, just half a second between New Zealand in third, Great Britain in second. There you can see Portugal all over the back of Switzerland and Neil Yarney, and look, now we've got the Netherlands again right in contact with this battle for second place.
Yeah, it's fun to see how close all these guys are running, but are they going to find a way past? That's the question. By the way, just to mention that Malaysia is still running. They went back out again. We saw the car pushed away, and I said, oh, that looked like the end of things for Team Malaysia, but actually, no, they've sent the car back out again, and he's running currently in 13th position. So hopefully they may still be able to get something out of it.
Well, we're just over half distance during this race in terms of laps. We've only got now just under 29 minutes of the race remaining. You never know, you could be 13th. You may actually end up in the top 10, because it is quite possible that with the pace of this race and the basic aggression of the race, that another two cars ahead of you could fall out.
We gather that the change that was made on the Malaysian car was to change the steering wheel. The steering wheel controls the electronics that operate the gearbox, and sometimes it can help cure a gearbox change problem. So that's what's happened to Malaysia. They've sent him back out. He's running in 13th place. And if a few cars have problems, which may well happen in the latter stages of this race, it is very tough on the cars. China. Well, they were having a few problems anyway earlier in the race, but they were running in 11th, so that gains both India, Malaysia and Pakistan a place.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Just hang out there, go back out. You never know what's going to happen in a street track. You can finish 10th place. That's one more point to your championship score.
I don't know what's happened there. Robin Arnott on the radio trying to find out from his driver what has occurred. The car seems to have pulled over with no visible damage on it, so maybe it's a mechanical problem that's put Ho Pin Tung out of the race. He was the hero of Australia with a fine third place to finish, but unfortunately it's not worked out for him this time. in Durban. That means that India will move up to 11th place.
Well, let's have a look and see, but he just creeps. In fact, this is turning into turns 4 and 5. So he just pulls the car off the racetrack to safety behind that barrier. And clearly that's a mechanical problem, or a problem certainly beyond the ability of Tung to get the car back to the pits. And, well, street tracks once again are taking their toll. They are so hard on the equipment.
Quick note that for Team Pakistan, with the demise of China, they will actually move up into 13th place. This could be Nur Ali's best finish if he just keeps on going. That's what this race is about. You've got to keep going and avoid mistakes. We're riding on board now with race leader Team Germany, and it is Nico Hülkenberg. By the way, some time ago, he made another record, and that means he's now led more laps as an individual driver than anyone else in A1GP. Former record was held by the French driver Nicolas Lapierre. He'd led 146 laps before this event, and now Nico Hülkenberg has become the individual most successful driver in terms of laps led. Let's find out a little bit more news from pit lane with Lee Mackenzie.
Thanks. I just spoke to Rob Arnott, the engineer, and he just said to me, yet another gearbox. I think that sums it up.
Oh, that's just such a shame. Yeah, gearbox problems seem to be the bugbear today, don't they?
Yes, it's hard to understand why so many cars are having the same problem over the same weekend, but it is an aggressive circuit, and drivers have been really driving these cars right to the limit, and particularly when there are curbs and they're jumping curbs. You put massive shock loads into every part of the car, but the transmission in particular is one that does suffer. So maybe that is the reason why we're hearing of all these problems this afternoon.
Switzerland versus Portugal and the Netherlands. This is all about 4th position, and a fair bit of prize money on offer, of course, for 4th place. $110,000 to the man who finishes in 4th. So it's worth pushing hard and trying to get past if you can. But Portugal on their return. I wonder how Alvaro Parente is feeling in that car. He's had a recent operation on his nose to open up one of his nasal passages, and he was telling me the other day he hasn't been able to do his normal training and fitness regime. Oh, New Zealand a bit deep into the hairpin again there, closing up to the back of Great Britain again. But as I say, for Team Portugal, for Alvaro Parente, the physical side of what's going on out there now may begin to tell.
Indeed, but the benefit is having a deviated septum undeviated is that you can breathe and get a lot more air into your lungs. And just talking about air into your lungs and fighting spirit, well, I've just heard from the pit lane that this Team South Africa entry is going to go back out on track. They're here for their nation. They're not going to sit back having fixed the car and watch this race come to a conclusion. Adrian Zog will go back out and will race till the checkered flag.
Oh, that's great to hear, John. And Team South Africa, who have been so out of luck in this race, they got pushed out of the way on the original start, and then they got clouted by Team Indonesia, taken out of the race effectively with lots of damage, but the team working hard, and they will send it back out. That's great news to hear. Looking down from the helicopter, giving us some wonderful shots. They're passing beneath the M4 road there. Some people watching from that section. Switzerland, Portugal and Netherlands running 4th, 5th and 6th currently. A little way behind them, Team Mexico are running a rather lonely race, followed by Team USA. And nonetheless, it's a good effort from Jonathan Summerton for Team USA. As I say, in his first race for the nation, only relatively inexperienced, particularly in big, powerful cars like these A1GP cars, and yet so far a solid job from him.
Rounding out the top 10 as the battle for 9th place with Ireland and Brazil, and there's only a second between Brazil in 10th and Ireland in 9th, and it's now, in fact, as they come across the start and finish line, down to 0.8 of a second. So Richard Lyons may well have a problem if his car did get clipped when he stalled on the grid. We believe that was a case of part of the problem on the right-hand side of the grid from the midfield back, and now he's under pressure from Bruno Junqueira in that Team Brazil entry.
No doubt that the Netherlands are looking the most likely to do something here. Jeroen Bleekemolen, who is in this position despite a drive-through penalty after a miscalled pit stop. He was waved out into the path of the Australian car. They paid their penalty, they've had the drive-through. They were under further investigation, but that signal has now disappeared from our timing screen, so presumably the stewards have decided to take no further action against the Dutch car, and he's there to race. He's in 6th place, and he's tight in behind the Portuguese entry.
Just over 23 minutes of this race remaining and 18 laps to go, so it looks to me like we might not make the total 18 lap distance. It may be a race that is timed. Remember, it'll go 69 minutes plus then 1 lap.
Yeah, that's right. That's a slightly revised rule. It's always been a 70-minute feature race, but it's now changed very slightly to being 69 minutes plus a lap, just to avoid confusion. We had a slight confusion at the end of the Australian race last time out in Eastern Creek. Well, Germany's advantage has now been built to 21 seconds. Remember that part of that huge lead for Team Germany was as a result of a restart when Team France tried to accelerate and found there was nothing under the accelerator pedal, no response at all, and that held up the whole rest of the field and gave Germany on a plate a 6-second advantage.
Well, that advantage has worked simply to the advantage of Nico Hulkenberg, who's some 21 seconds now ahead of Team GBR, and that lead that GBR had over third place New Zealand has begun to stretch to fractionally over a second. And we see Team USA, they've made a further pass. Great job by Jonathan Somerton, has found a way past Salvador Duran from Mexico.
I tell you what, Team USA is the one picking them off at the moment. We didn't see the move, but USA's got past Mexico. You're seeing Ireland behind them in 9th and Brazil in 10th place. But well done to Jonathan Somerton for Team USA, making progress throughout this race. And I tell you what, a performance like this and that young lad could become a staple part of the American team. They want to put their energies into a youngster who they feel can really move forward, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Well, the distance in terms of time between the USA now in 7th and the Netherlands in 6th is just 8.5 seconds. That's a big ask because the lap speed right now of the USA is not even capable of matching that of the Netherlands. It will be really dependent on traffic and fitness, stamina, reliability.
He's only a fairly slight young man, is Jonathan Somerton. I know the team were a little bit concerned to know how he would put up with the heat and the humidity and the physical stresses, but he seems to be doing fine so far.
Well, let's look and see what happens here. Traffic, USA getting bogged down, and that looks like somebody's going to clip the wall on the outside. I can't work out which car that is. He's caught behind.
That might have been India. I'm not sure if that was India that he got caught behind. I think it was. So India was trying to get out of the way, but actually what ended up happening was it boxed Mexico out of the situation, and USA took advantage. Oh, no, he's hit the
USA's
wall.
hit the wall and he's hit it big time up at turn 8. There must have been some contact prior in that corner, and now he's gone off big time. And again, up at turn 8, a heavy hit for Team USA. And there is the left-hand side of the car, absolutely crashed. As young Jonathan Somerton slowly undoes the belts and all the other bits and pieces. He'll have a drinks bottle.
Safety car, John.
Yes, I'm not surprised because that car is in a perilous position, and also the medical car may also be deployed just to ensure that Jonathan Somerton has not suffered any injury in that contact. Heavy impact with the wall up at turn 8.
Safety car on track, and Germany's lead has just been wiped out. It was up to 22 seconds, but now with 16 laps remaining, some of them to be run under safety car, it'll bring Germany, Great Britain, New Zealand all together on track.
Well, there you can see the heavy damage to the left-hand side of the car. Let's look again. And he clipped the wall actually on the coming out of the turn 7, and I think he may have damaged the suspension. No, certainly he flattened the right front tire, and he's got virtually no steering because the left-hand side of the car is up in the air because both the right front and right rear had been punctured, and therefore he was simply a passenger. Here we go on board, and let's see what happens with that's the view from Mexico, and there it is, Mexico looking and put his hand up. I don't know what he did for that, but anyway, maybe there's a signal there to say it's my turn.
Well, I don't know what that was about because, OK, USA got past Mexico, but he simply took advantage of a situation that had developed, so I don't quite know what that was about. But nonetheless, that's such a pity for Somerton. We were just saying how well he was doing, but that slight mistake, that's always the problem on a street track. You make the slightest little error, just got carried away, perhaps hit the curb a bit too hard, and suddenly race over.
Yes, there's the slap on the wall on the exit of turn 7. Both the right front and rear are damaged. That means the car is tilting to the right. It lifts the left front wheel off the ground, and in effect he had little braking and had virtually no steering whatsoever.
I hope our cameraman's all right. He was right underneath that, wasn't he, with the camera, but he managed to whiz the camera around, so I think he's perfectly all right, and to get a view of the car. And well, action in the latter stages still with 15 laps to go here in Durban.
Also, what was significant was on that particular lap when Jonathan Somerton clipped the wall, or slammed the wall I should say, was that Germany actually decided to put in a little bit of a quicker lap, and they went from running in the mid-20s down to 1 minute 19s, middle 19s. And there we see Jonathan Somerton. He's had a big old rattle around the cockpit. Normally your knees and your feet get really slammed around the unyielding carbon fibre tub that current modern racing cars are all about, and he'll be bruised and uncomfortable tonight, but he is effectively uninjured. So that was a rude awakening to street racing for Jonathan Somerton.
Let's get down to the pit. Simon is with seat holder Rick Feidinger.
You can see the concern on your face there about Jonathan Rick. He looks like he's okay.
Yes, it looks like he's okay. He was, towards the end of his race, he was clocking the fastest lap times. We probably should have slowed him down a little bit. He was performing. We're very proud of Jonathan.
Thanks, Rick.
You bet, Simon.
Well, they love to see a guy trying hard, and that was what Jonathan Somerton was doing. Unfortunately, it went wrong for him. This is the moment it hit the wall, John.
Yeah, but the real problem began on the exit of 7 when he tagged the wall on the outside. There's the view again, looking back from Mexico, and you can see a big slam, right front, right rear. And now, I don't know what Salvador Duran thought he was doing. Whether he thought that was justice for what occurred when he was overtaken by USA back in turn 13, a lap and a half earlier.
Well, South Africa still planning to come out on track. There is Adrian Zhao. I'll tell you what, he'll get a huge reception when they get this car back together. It'll be wonderful to see him on track once again. There was a lot of damage to this car.
Yes, there was. And all that right-hand side around the radiators, probably damage to the radiators, to the mountings of the radiator air intakes, the boxes at the rear. I mean, just there are so many parts that are interconnected in a modern racing car, and if one part gets damaged, then the whole lot tend to get a right old bashing.
Only 13 cars are still running in this race. India are now in the points courtesy of the accident that has happened to the United States. Malaysia just outside the points in 11th.
And I tell you, for all the drivers, look, Germany's behind the safety car. Where is the rest of the field?
I think they've been waved through, probably, because he didn't pick up Germany initially, so it may be that the safety car has waved through the rest.
So those cars that are behind should have been enjoying the luxury of a number of laps behind the safety car at a pace that they can relax, draw breath. If any of them have got anything left in the drink spot, and get a good slug of that as well. Interesting
that Pakistan is actually on the road between Germany and Great Britain, so at the restart there's not going to be a lot of opportunity for Robbie Kerr to put any pressure on Nico Hülkenberg, because there's going to be a car between them, I think.
In real terms, I don't think there's any pressure going to come from Team GBR other than on the run down into turn 1. But since that's going to be controlled by Germany, I think that Nico Hülkenberg is going to be cute enough to know that he's going to have the advantage as to when to go, and he'll try and catch out on wrong foot Robbie Kerr, particularly with Pakistan, as you point out, caught between first and second cars on the road.
That's right, they'll have to lap Pakistan again, those cars battling for second. But what it does mean is that New Zealand will have another chance to get past Great Britain. Switzerland, Portugal and the Netherlands, who've all been fighting hard over recent laps, will also be tied in there together. Mexico will be back up. Ireland are now running in 8th position with USA going out. So Ireland on for a double point score here this weekend, and in fact their best feature race finish they're on for as well. With Brazil, Bruno Junqueira running in 9th position on his debut for the team. He stayed out of trouble despite being in quite a lot during practice sessions. In this race, he stayed out of trouble, and he's running in 9th with, as I mentioned just a moment ago, India 2 laps, or that's only a lap down. They're running in 10th place. Germany weaving around quite a lot there, John.
Yes, he does not want to get rubber pickup on his tires. He wants to make sure that when the safety car is deployed and it's going to come in at the end of this lap, as you see the safety car sign flashing, that indicates that the lights are going out. So this will see this race get underway on lap 38 of, it should be 13 to go, but only 14 minutes remaining. So I think we're going to see maybe a maximum of 11, possibly 12 laps, and it's going to be very tense indeed, because with Noor Ali and Team Pakistan caught between the first and second cars on the road, that's going to see Robbie Kerr at his animated best when it comes to overtaking.
It's going to be fun to watch the battle for the final point as well, because India currently 10th, but Malaysia is tucked in behind.
And remember, you're not allowed to overtake until you go across the start-finish line. So Robbie Kerr might be all over Pakistan like a rash, but he is not permitted to overtake the Pakistan car until he has crossed the start-finish line, which will give Germany in turn further advantage, because he will be on it, believe me, by the time he gets to turn 12.
Yeah, well, I haven't actually seen the lights go out on the safety car just yet, so we may have another lap to go yet, so we'll keep an eye on that. There was still a fair bit of debris up there, that section of track where USA went off, so keep an eye on this, see whether they are. Yeah, they have just gone off, so it will be in, and we are going to go racing. Watch out for Germany, measuring and assessing how early on the restart he can really put the hammer down. And of course Robbie Kerr's not allowed to pass that Pakistan car until they get to the line.
Well, Nico Hülkenberg again just weaving around. He knows that the safety car has got to be at his side. Now he can get on it, but everybody else is going to be caught behind Pakistan. They cannot overtake the Pakistan car until they cross the start-finish line. And I can assure you, Pakistan is pretty quick in a straight line, and they will not give way unnecessarily, though under wave blue flags they are required to.
So here they can start to overtake us. Yeah, over the line. Now he can overtake, and he goes straight down the inside. New Zealand's not been able to make much advantage out of this, I don't think. Right behind, you've got Switzerland, Portugal, Netherlands, Ireland. Ireland's dived down the inside. Has it gained a place on Mexico? Yes, it has. Team Ireland gains one as Pakistan tries to keep out of the way.
Mexico tries to come back going into turn 2, dives on the inside and forces Ireland wide. So Mexico, who passed Ireland earlier in the race, lost it at the restart, then regained it with a very courageous move down into turn 2.
Good clean racing from both of them there, from Salvador Duran and from Richard Lyons. Well done to them for keeping it clean, both wanting to finish this race. For a moment it looked like Ireland were going to get 7th place or better, but now Mexico's reclaimed 7th position, Ireland back into 8th.
And you can see the gap almost up to 3 seconds as they come down this main straight down into turn 9. Nico Hulkenberg once again in complete total control of this lap, of this race.
And behind, India versus Malaysia for 10th place and the final point. Remember, Malaysia sent their car back out. We thought it was all over for Malaysia, but now there's actually a great race going on between two very experienced former Grand Prix drivers, Narain Karthikeyan and Alex Young at the back of the field there. India, of course, using the spare car, and Alex Young, after a very troubled weekend, now knows he might have a chance of scoring a point.
So the battle of Ireland with Brazil now behind them, and this is a battle comes out on start finish straight. So look, there's the lead. It is 3.1 seconds. New Zealand didn't really seem to get any benefit by the restart. They didn't, certainly closed up onto Team GBR. And there's the tail of the field. Malaysia running in 11th place. Pakistan, of course, is 12th, but they're caught up now in this bunch of cars that will be lapped.
Yeah, Brazil, that's right, is a lap ahead, in fact, not just on the road ahead of India, but he's a whole lap ahead of India. So really India and Malaysia in their own private battle at the back of this. Ireland in trouble there. What's happened to Richard Lyons?
I don't know whether that's a failure or not, but suddenly the car turned left when he should have been turning right, and is that
it's a punctured left rear, I think.
It looks like that. I wonder, was that anything to do with was there contact in turn 1 at the restart or not? It looks like a punctured left rear. Suddenly Richard Lyons turned left and turned 5 when he should have turned right, and that is sad for Ireland. They got their single point in you can see it, just Gary Anderson. What have they got to do?
Yeah,
it's wheel damage. You can see there's been damage to that rim. Was that was there contact in Mexico and Ireland, or was that a driver error from Richard Lyons?
Disappointment again. They scored a point earlier on today, and he was in the fight today, which is very promising for Team Ireland, because they haven't really been a part of that top 10 battle on many occasions. They were right in it today. They're looking so much more competitive. But the street trackers claimed another victim, and it means that both India and Malaysia are going to score points in this race. So there you go. It was well worth sending Malaysia back out after changing that steering wheel, because they will earn at least 1 point out of today's race.
Well, when they were 13th and 15 minutes ago, I said stay out. You just never can predict what will happen on a street track. And here we are with 9 minutes, or just under 10 minutes of this race remaining, and they are on the verge of being in the points.
Yeah, that's great news for them, and they've still got the race going on between themselves and India, which is now for 9th position, and it means that Pakistan has now come up into 11th place. Nur Ali still going. He might have been lapped several times, but this is definitely going to be his best result of the season so far. 1 or 2 more cars out of this and he'll be in the points himself. So Nur Ali, he hasn't done any damage to his car. He's stayed out of the way as well as he can, and he's still in this race.
Indeed, and if he keeps out of trouble, who would bet against him getting a single point? And it would be a deserved and earned point for the Pakistan team and the Pakistan driver. I thought somebody might be heading wall-wise on the exit of turn 10 as we cut back to the South Africa team. They're willing to get this car back out. They want to run to the end. They want their car on the track when the checkered flag falls.
There are 9 laps to go, but actually there are 9 minutes to go, which is the more important factor. So after 9 minutes, we'll see the last lap board come out, and then we'll see the end of the race. And Germany has once again controlled and dominated this race here in Durban. You're watching the rest of the field still engaged in some tremendous tussles. Malaysia there trying to pass India, not getting alongside, but just slithering around under braking. Again, these two very experienced drivers will probably know most of the tricks in the book, so Karthikeyan should know enough to be able to keep Malaysia behind him, but you never know what's going to happen in the closing stages.
Well, you can see what happened to Team USA. They slapped the wall. Team Ireland damaged left rear tyre. We don't know how rim and tyre. We don't know how that happened. It may have been they clipped the wall in turn 4, just leading into turn 5, or it may have been contact with another car. We didn't see the cause. We saw the outcome of that incident.
Yeah, big slide from Narain Karthikeyan there. The back end of the car is really getting quite loose. And that was a little bit of a scary moment, I should think. Great Britain, you know, heading for second place. You would never have thought, having qualified 11th for the sprint race, having finished 9th in that sprint race to start this one in that position, you never would have thought that he would have been on the podium. But Robbie Kerr has fought hard for this, and he is going to try and hold on in the remaining 7.5 minutes.
Well, certainly Robbie Kerr is tenacious. He is a great race driver. We've seen that over the series, 2 series to date. But he still has never had himself on that winner's podium. He's been second on occasions, and that's just looking at Germany. You're pointing out the lap time. Germany decided, I'll just show you who is the star in the class of this field by doing what is probably the second fastest race lap with 8 laps to go in this race. And I mean, how easy has it been for Nico Hülkenberg here this weekend? He's basically seen no traffic other than that he's been lapping.
I tell you what, he may be a bit frustrated though, because China still had the fastest lap in this race, and I think Nico's gotten used to the fact of getting the perfect score, you know, the pole position, the 2 wins, and the fastest lap of the day. But he's not got it at the moment because it was set by China. Although, what was the fastest lap in the sprint race? That, of course, does have a bearing on it. Fastest lap in the sprint race, an 18.7, so no, he will still get the extra point for fastest lap. It's between the 2 races.
Team Pakistan is not under investigation. We don't know what occurred, so Pakistan, who find themselves running just outside the points on 12th place, are now also under investigation. Busy day for the stewards. It's been hot on the stewards' office this afternoon, I suspect.
I should think it has. It's been hot just about everywhere here around this Durban circuit. The sun is streaming into our commentary box window. The air conditioning's not keeping up, but it's not nearly as warm as it is out there for those guys on track at the moment. And Germany with a huge... He's just got in the 118s, John. He's done a 118.9 now, Team Germany. That's a fantastic lap.
Well, it is. Part of the reason is because the racetrack has now got so much rubber done on it, it's actually coming to be a proper racetrack. That happened last year when we saw the lap record being established by Nelson Piquet Jr. Needed a lap of 1:18.178.
Brazil has got ahead of Mexico. Now, I'm not sure what's happened. Mexico is in trouble in the pits. Team Mexico, is it all over for the nation that will be hosting the next race? Yes, it is. Oh, Salvador Duran, he went out of the sprint race with a gearbox problem, and after fighting his way through this race, he's out of it, and his home nation will host the next race of A1GP. Oh, there's such disappointment again for them.
New Zealand coming under pressure from Switzerland. The gap again was down to half a second when they came across start-finish line. And South Africa, Adrian Zaag goes out to complete the last 7 laps, or 5.5 minutes of this race.
Oh, that's fantastic, and I tell you what, that's a brilliant effort by the team. There was a lot of damage to that car. Everyone else would not have bothered, but they want to get their man out on circuit.
Well, I think New Zealand either has backed off or may also have a problem, because all of a sudden there appears to be greater space between Great Britain in second place and New Zealand in third place as we watch Adrian Zaag and the South Africa team run for the first time. They've been in the pits for the best part of all, 60-odd minutes.
Yeah, and they were quite a long way down in terms of laps completed. They may not actually be classified because you've got to complete a certain distance. But let me just tell you, with the demise of Mexico, it now depends on how many laps this race goes as to whether Pakistan gets into the points here. Because, of course, Pakistan's a couple of laps down on Mexico. See how many laps we've got to go here. It's possible Pakistan may pick up the final point.
But they still are under investigation, for which reason we know not. Nevertheless, it could be the first opportunities we see the Pakistan entry just come out of that turn 7 area. So up the hill again, we got this battle going on with Portugal running in 5th place, the Netherlands in 6th, and then further back the battle with India and Malaysia.
This is great fun. I love this battle between Narain Karthikeyan and Alex Young, and look how close the yellow car of Malaysia is, tucked in behind the Indian car, and they're going to go side by side down the main straight here, heading down towards turn 9.
He's got the position, but Karthikeyan slides it under. Well, the pair of them gave themselves wriggle room, but just about, and I thought that maybe one of those 2 cars might make contact on the exit, and joy you can see from the Team Malaysia pit lane.
Yeah, well, you can understand it, can't you? That's an intense battle, Malaysia versus India, and Malaysia snatches 8th place in the dying moments of this race. The Indian car, I tell you what, the crew on the Indian car done a fantastic job. They've bolted together all the best bits they could from the spare car and from their own car. It's not at all ideal. It's not really what they would have wanted to race with, and yet they are still going to come home with points. It's only the 2nd time that Team India has ever scored points in A1GP.
My car, Ben, my car.
Your car, John, the spare car, your car, I know. Well, it's been well looked after by Narain Karthikeyan. He knows you've got to drive it again in Mexico.
Listen, I'll check that out when this race is over, whether he's looked after it or not.
Oh, Robbie
Kerr
still
slides
sliding,
through,
yeah.
yes, through turn 7. The gap had gone over a second. Now it's back to, well, it is still over a second, 1.2 seconds is the gap between Great Britain and New Zealand. Has New Zealand got anything left for one last-minute challenge to Team GBR, or is it now that New Zealand has just run out of gas and decided they're going to take those 8 points for second place and concede? And what's this?
Netherlands,
Brazil,
this is Netherlands versus Portugal, coming down into turn 9, and Jeroen Bleekemolen looking to try and make a Jos Verstappen-like manoeuvre towards the end of the feature race here at Durban. He's right in behind Alvaro Parent. Maybe now Parent really struggling with the heat, the humidity, the physical stresses. He's driven wonderfully, has Parent. He's not been in a car for months, but there, he pulled away. Mistake or something from Netherlands, because he was tucked up behind, suddenly dropped back again.
And what's even more impressive is that the team of people working around the Portuguese entry include members of the motor racing sort of glitterati from way back in the 70s. They're not all young things as you'd see in most of the nations here this weekend.
Absolutely right, and Brazil just tucked in behind them as well. Just behind them, running in 7th place, and this for Team Brazil is also going to be one of their best results of the season, because they've had a pretty tough... So India's off. Your car, John, your car.
Well, it's in 4 wheels on my wagon. I don't know what the problem is, but suddenly that car has come to a halt. We've seen other cars have this problem with the gearbox. We don't know whereabouts it is as it is. It's actually on the inside, on the main pit straight, coming down into turn 1. The car is not in a dangerous position. I don't anticipate we'll see the safety car come out, because we've only got 1.5 minutes of this race remaining.
Well, there you go. Drama's right to the end here. Team Pakistan, I believe, is going to be in the points, even without that problem for Team India. Pakistan is going to be into the points. We've got 1 minute 10 seconds still remaining, and then the final lap of the race to go. It's all looking very untroubled for Team Germany. I mean, I tell you what, this nation has dominated this second season of A1GP to such an extent, particularly recently. All 6 races of 2007 so far run appear to be going the way of Nico Hülkenberg.
Yes, and I think you say Team Germany, they've had a superb run all year, but it really has been the driving talent of this young kid from Germany, Nico Hülkenberg, who has really, I think, re-established the pecking order in A1GP in terms of out-and-out drivers' pace and quality of driver.
He's also set the fastest lap in this race as well, so he has got the full Monty of results from this weekend so far, and as long as the car keeps going till the end, he's in great shape. And we gather that the problem, John, with your car, the Indian car, is the gearbox.
Yes, I suspected there may have been a gearbox. The way the car pulled off, there's clearly no damage to the car, and the most frequent problem drivers and teams have suffered here this afternoon has been in the area of the transmission. It is a tough circuit, and everybody has driven the hardest of races here this afternoon.
Well, Team Germany, I think, will be coming around this time to start their final lap. And you know, he's breaking the records as he goes. We mentioned earlier on that he's now led more laps as an individual driver than anyone else. If he finishes this lap okay, he'll also become the most successful individual driver in A1GP history, because he'll be on 8 victories. Alexander Premat had 7 in the first year of A1GP, but Nico Hülkenberg's going to go on to number 8 here with this.
I mean, I don't know what you can say. We've said so many kind things about Nico Hülkenberg. We've yet to find something that's not kind. The young man from Germany who drives his father's pickup trucks back in the family business, and explained to us that takes a certain amount of skill and expertise. But in a racing car, he is just making giant strides in terms of his own personal performance and his overall status within motor racing, first of all in Germany, but also on a global basis with A1GP.
Yeah, he really is showing his form once again, and a tremendous team effort, of course, by that whole Team Germany outfit. The engineering led by David Sears. Willy Weber, the seat holder here for Team Germany, is here this weekend. He's been watching on television the dominant performance of his team at the last couple of events, so he's decided to come along and watch it in person this time, and it has worked out perfectly for Team Germany. 10 seconds his lead as he came across the line last time. He's showboating out there today. He set the fastest lap in both races. He has dominated both races, and victory for the second time today goes to Team Germany here at Durban.
Absolutely magnificent from Germany. Now we've got to see the battle for second place. It is Team GBR who come across the line.
Second goes to Great Britain. Third goes to New Zealand, and that is a result that they dragged out of nowhere, Great Britain. Tony Clement, seat holder, delighted. And Team Pakistan, who stopped down at the end there because they're all having fun with doing donuts. Pakistan in the points. The first time that Pakistan has scored points in 14 races, because last time that Adam Khan was in the points was in the Shanghai race at the end of the first season of A1GP. Now look, they've all got themselves into a traffic jam at the hairpin. But Nur Ali deserves to celebrate his first ever point in A1GP, and well deserved, because he stayed out of trouble. He might not have been the fastest car out there, but he did stay out of trouble. The car's in one piece, and several people, I'm afraid, did not achieve that objective here today. Team Germany did it in some style, though. Let's not forget that New Zealand have picked up another very useful batch of points with third place. Switzerland will further cement their fourth place in the point standings with fourth place in the race here. Portugal, a fantastic fifth place finish for Portugal, sixth place for Netherlands, seventh place for Brazil. And for Team Brazil, with their new driver Bruno Junqueira, after a fraught weekend of repairing damaged cars, well, they really have something to celebrate. And what about the host nation, Team South Africa? They may not have got a result out of it, but I tell you what, he got fastest lap on that last lap there. He went out, they rebuilt the car. I'm just looking down the timing screens, and the fastest lap went to Team South Africa, so that was worth sending him out. I don't think it's actually any quicker than the lap that was done in the sprint race. Let's just check. No, it's a fraction slower than the lap that was done in the sprint race by Germany, and that means Germany will gain the extra point. This was Nico Hülkenberg celebrating down at the hairpin there. Didn't quite get his donuts right, though. He's got a bit of work on those before he gets it right.